Deep in the rolling savannas of southern Africa, a monumental puzzle rises from the golden grass. Enormous curving walls stretch toward the sky, casting long shadows over the dry earth. Millions of perfectly shaped granite blocks sit tightly together, forming a giant maze of winding corridors and towering enclosures. The wind whispers through these empty stone passages, carrying the faint echoes of a forgotten time. This is a place of profound and eerie silence, yet the sheer, overwhelming size of the ruins screams of incredible human power and ambition. Every single block was carefully carved and stacked entirely by hand. This advanced African society constructed a massive fortress from solid rock, and they did it using a method that still baffles modern engineers today. They built without mortar. Not a single drop of mud, clay, or cement holds these towering structures together. Instead, the heavy stones rely purely on precise gravity and perfect balance to stay standing strong, even 700 years later. This stone metropolis was once the beating heart of a vast and incredibly wealthy kingdom. Long before huge wooden ships sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, the Shona people ruled a massive empire from this very spot. They commanded a trade network so huge and complex that it reached all the way across the Indian Ocean. Their merchants held incredible power, turning a secluded savanna settlement into a bustling global hub for the richest traders on Earth. Gleaming treasures flowed constantly through these granite walls. Digging beneath the ancient soil, modern explorers have found tiny, brightly colored glass beads from India and beautiful painted pottery from China. These delicate and rare objects traveled thousands of miles across stormy seas and harsh, unforgiving deserts just to reach this kingdom. But the real prize, the ultimate treasure that made this city a legend across the world, was pure gold. The earth surrounding the city was packed with precious yellow metal. Thousands of ancient, hand-dug mines dotted the rolling hills in every direction. Brave miners carefully extracted the gold from the deep rock, bringing it back to the great capital to be melted, shaped into beautiful jewelry, and traded. The incredible wealth flowing out of the ground transformed a simple farming settlement into a booming center of supreme power and unmatched luxury. Yet today, the grand royal palaces are completely empty. The bustling, noisy markets are gone forever, replaced by creeping wild vines and wandering wild animals. The powerful kings and queens, who wore the foreign silk and local gold, vanished completely by the 1400s. Modern science investigates a chilling question about human survival when looking at these lonely, empty courtyards and abandoned homes. How does a kingdom so rich and so powerful simply walk away from its crowning achievement? The massive stone walls did not fall to a conquering enemy army. There are absolutely no signs of a fiery battle, a terrible war, or a violent invasion. The enemy that brought down this glorious empire was entirely invisible, and it was slowly created by the very people who built the magnificent city. The terrifying secret lies hidden in the dirt. Scientists, looking closely at the ancient layers of soil, found tiny clues that tell a tragic, slow-moving story. The city simply grew way too large for its own good. Tens of thousands of people lived inside and around the giant stone circles. Every single day, this massive crowd needed huge amounts of food, fresh water, and heat just to survive. The surrounding land could only give so much before it broke. To feed the exploding population, busy farmers planted crops on every available patch of dirt they could find. Herders brought in thousands upon thousands of cattle, and those hungry animals ate every single blade of grass for miles around. The protective layer of green plants vanished completely, leaving the fragile soil exposed to harsh, baking winds and heavy, washing rains. The rich earth quickly began to wash away into the rivers. Without good soil, the vital food crops failed miserably. At the exact same time, The massive population chopped down entire forests for firewood and heavy building materials. They needed enormous, roaring fires day and night to melt their gold and cook their daily meals. The once lush and vibrant green valleys slowly turned into a barren, dusty, and lifeless wasteland. Overpopulation pushed the delicate environment far past its breaking point. The kingdom had mastered the art of stone and the business of global trade, but they forgot to balance their rapid growth with the limits of nature. Resource depletion slowly choked the life out of the magnificent capital. The clear rivers grew muddy and shallow, the precious firewood disappeared, and the great herds of royal cattle began to starve in the dust. Even the endless, shining veins of gold began to run completely dry. The shallow, easy mines that had made the kings so incredibly wealthy were completely emptied out. Miners had to dig deeper and deeper into the hard, dangerous rock, spending huge amounts of energy just to find tiny flakes of metal. The massive economic engine that powered the entire global trade network simply sputtered out and died. The creeping environmental disaster caused a slow, heartbreaking, and painful exit. It was not a sudden, screaming panic, but a quiet, tragic realization that the land was finally dead. Exhausted families packed up their few belongings, leaving behind the giant granite walls they had worked so incredibly hard to build. They walked away into the endless savanna, searching desperately for new green lands that could actually support them. The mighty ruins were left entirely to the wild. Heavy rains washed over the empty stone courtyards, and tiny green seeds took root in the small cracks between the perfect blocks. Giant trees grew tall right inside the former royal chambers. For centuries, the spectacular fortress slept in absolute silence, hiding its glorious and tragic past from the rest of the outside world. When outside explorers finally stumbled upon the massive walls hundreds of years later, they completely refused to believe the truth. Early European visitors looked at the brilliant, towering engineering and made up wild, impossible stories. They claimed the city was built by mythical kings from distant, magical lands. They simply could not accept that local African builders possessed such incredible skill, vision, and architectural genius. But the silent stones themselves tell the real, undeniable story. Modern archaeology proved without a doubt that the Shona ancestors carved every single block. Researchers found the ancient iron tools, the beautiful local pottery, and the distinct cultural marks left behind by the true, brilliant creators. The genius of the dry stone technique was entirely homegrown, standing as a proud testament to local innovation and sheer human willpower. The most famous structure still standing today is a giant, circular fortress known as the Great Enclosure. Its outer wall is incredibly thick and strong, rising high above the tops of the savanna trees. Inside this massive ring, a strange, solid stone tower points straight toward the sky. No one knows exactly what this mysterious tower was used for. It has no hidden doors, no dark windows, and no internal stairs. It is a solid block of pure mystery, keeping its ancient secrets locked away forever in hard granite. Standing before this giant, silent tower, the true heavy weight of the past hits you hard. This was a society that dreamed in stone. They wanted to build something permanent, something that would outlast their own fragile lives. And in a very real way, they succeeded beautifully. Their incredible walls survived the harsh climate and the long passage of centuries, even though their bustling society did not. The shadows grow long as the hot sun sets over the African savanna. The golden evening light hits the ancient granite blocks, making the towering walls glow with a warm, fiery, and magical color. The wind picks up, rustling the dry yellow grass that now covers the forgotten walking paths. The landscape transformed over the centuries, but the mighty skeleton of the great city remains firmly planted in the solid earth. The tragic collapse of this grand capital changed the entire surrounding region forever. The massive global trade network shifted away, finding new, safer routes and entirely new partners. The surviving descendants of the great builders formed new, smaller kingdoms across the vast land. They carried the precious knowledge of their ancestors with them, but they never again built on such a gigantic, overpowering and demanding scale. They learned a very hard, painful lesson from the empty, haunting ruins. A society cannot simply take and take from the earth without facing a terrible consequence. The giant, empty walls serve as a beautiful but deeply terrifying warning to anyone who visits. They remind us all that nature has strict limits, no matter how much gold you have hidden away or how thick your stone defenses are. Even today, brilliant engineers carefully study the curved, ancient walls to understand their incredible strength. The original builders used a very special technique, shaping the heavy rocks so they leaned slightly inward toward the center. This clever, simple trick made the towering walls incredibly stable against the wind and rain. As the ground shifted slightly over hundreds of years, the clever stones simply settled tighter together instead of falling apart. There are still many hidden, dark corners of the ruins waiting to be fully explored. Deep beneath the overgrown, thorny brush, parts of the ancient city remain completely untouched by modern hands. Who knows what forgotten, golden treasures or strange clues still lie buried deep in the dirt. Every single new discovery adds another fascinating piece to the giant puzzle of how these incredible people lived and worked. The story of this lost, magnificent empire is a perfect mirror for our own modern world. Today, we build towering cities of shining glass and heavy steel, stretching our reach across the entire globe. We dig deep into the earth for hidden resources to power our modern, fast-paced lives. The ancient Shona people did the exact same thing, just with granite blocks, burning wood, and shining gold. The silent, beautiful stones watch forever over the African plains. They have seen the glorious rise of kings, the thrilling rush of wealth, and the slow, tragic march of starvation. The ancient patterns shifted into a new reality, leaving behind a haunting, gorgeous monument to human ambition. The empty, winding corridors will forever echo with the ghosts of a people who reached for the stars, but tragically forgot to tend the fragile earth beneath their feet.